you were saying?
I was the first white teacher in the South to go into an all-black school full-time in the public schools in Charlotte, North Carolina. And this is reported by the Associated Press. As a result, I went to Johnson C. Smith with some of my fellow teachers who asked me if I wanted to meet Dr. King. And he was speaking there to a group there were about probably 50 of us. Most of them were faculty members at Johnson C. Smith University. And he spoke that night. It was so powerful. I've never heard anyone speak before or since that seemed to have the charisma and be able to project it the way he did. It was, I consider it one of the highlights of my life, that I was able to shake his hand.
And this was how long before his death?
About a year. And the next year, when he was assassinated, I was still teaching at this school. And they called me that morning and said, "You better not come in. It may not be safe." And I said, "What on earth are you talking about? I know my students. I know these teachers. Why would I stay home?"
Right. And which school was this in Charlotte?
It was, at that time, it was West Charlotte. It was a very large all-black school, probably close to 2,000 students at the time.
So what was the trigger or the catalyst for you to start teaching in an all-black school?
Because I had always championed the cause of desegregation, and I had always been so heavily involved in eliminating racism. It was just the way I grew up in the South.
Don't you find that that's odd, though, given the history of the South? I mean, that you were a maverick then of that time.
Yes, in some ways, but I grew up on a farm, and all of my playmates when I was a child were black. And my family did not use those N-words. We just considered everybody human. A lot of people in the South then did not hate black people. Most of us didn't hate black people. We were just following a sort of routine that had been set up by our ancestors, that we didn't mingle, that we weren't supposed to mingle with them after we turned a certain age. And it was not, I don't think there was much hatred except for the KKK.
Have you seen any changes with KKK or other racist groups or people?
They've grown much smaller and more underground.
I know while we were traveling up here, last night we stayed with some friends in Charlottesville, and I was able to get online and read the comments from the news articles for the Asheville paper. And there were several in there that were commenting and using statements like, "I'm surprised that they have money to rent a bus. I wonder how many food stamps were used to rent that bus," things like that. What do you think about when you hear me say that still exists, or there are people who are saying that in newspapers?
We still have a great many uneducated people in the South and undereducated people in the South. And I don't mean in terms of whether they finished high school or even attended college. They just still are not educated. And it's just so ingrained and has been for generations that it's sort of hard to get over that, I suppose, for many people.
So as a teacher, how do you think that what is the method of education to get that element of society to the next level where we already are?
Well, integration did a great deal, made a lot of forward movement in that, because once at the student level that they began from K through 12, when they intermingled and they saw that there weren't such big differences. That generation that my children belong to began to gradually change in their outlook toward the different races. And now I think it's beginning because desegregation has occurred, that this next generation just doesn't seem to think about it much unless they've been tutored by their grandparents.
All right.
It's not going to disappear, but mostly. Mostly.